Okay, and in conclusion, fuck the MBTA and the buses. Okay. Oh, are we live now? Good. This is Chad Barrento, and this is also Stone Soup Poetry at the same time. Um, we are celebrating our 52nd anniversary and not so glamorous faction. Still doing the remote thing, still doing online for all 4 days a week. And we're getting ready to have more features to announce. We do have 2 people lined up and I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully we'll have we might actually have another farewell feature coming up. I heard that Dita Galloway is going to be going home to Georgia, or back to her. Like she used to divide her time between Georgia and Boston, and it looks like she might be going back permanently since the death of Roger Shepard, which I can certainly understand. And hopefully the man who never returned. Oh God, I'm just reading the chat now. All right, more fun at a later time, but yes, hopefully more announcements will be coming. Hopefully some Stone Soup gems from the archives are going to be shared. I'm hoping to have some time to take care of that. If not this weekend, it might be in the later part of later part of May. We'll see what happens. But at any rate, we're going to get going. I literally have nothing interesting to say today. All any interest or personality was completely burned away from the bus and having to wait 20 minutes for her 1 mile ride home, because the mile between actually probably 2 miles home, because the mile 1.5 1.3 at best, but that 1.3 between Forest Hills and my house is wretched, is like Fury Road. But and actually it was actually the source of that accident that kept me from going to my house, where I found they were actually discussing it. A bus driver was talking to someone who I guess was a friend of hers, and the friend basically said, "Is it true that a bus basically tried to run through the Forest Hill gates and into a funeral parlor?" And she was like, "Well, she was hit by another car, and I think she was running from her boyfriend." And I'm like, oh God, yeah. So it's a one time I actually almost had like a 1% regret of getting off of a bus before I knew the story. I usually don't care. I usually, I'm like, hey, this could be a writing exercise if I try to do the rest of the story. But I wish I stayed just one more stop, but we could not. Thank you guys for your patience in coming here tonight. And now our first person, as selected by the Ramdonator 5000, is Mr. Edward Galt, aka Magister Galt, aka Gentleman Galt.
Okay.
Galt and the Funky Bunch. Here you go, Ed.
All right. This one is called Breaking Up. All right. This is a poem called Breaking Up. It's a relatively new one. Breaking Up. I must confess I missed something. I had such faith in us. I didn't see a lot of what I should have. I didn't see that you were unhappy. I guess because I was happy, I thought you were too. You didn't tell me, so how could I have known? I'll take the hit for my part. I must have made many mistakes, never knowing I was committing them. We'd always been strong, weathering hard times, yet always coming out stronger than before. I heard people say that they wished they could have been us. We were the picture of happiness, walks on the esplanade, looking at the fountain lit up against the night sky, and the ice sculptures on New Year's Eve. The doves signaled the good times ahead. There were the candles, I got you. The sculpture of Oakman, you got me. All the time we had spent in cafes, all the movies we'd seen, the good times we had, I thought were bringing us together. But now, for whatever reason, you have turned our past against me. You have called me a manipulator and every hellacious name you could think of, without warning, it seems, without any attempt to talk, to let me know how you were hurting, how you were changing. We all change, but weren't we supposed to change together? I can remember your first hello. Now you're saying goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Magister, Magister Maestro. Let's welcome up next via phone, and hopefully she'll unmute herself by pressing *6, Miss Nancy Dodson.
A walk in solitude. New moons create a small crescent. A star lights up the sky. A light proceeds along the pathway. A statue of a dog appears before me. A dog barks. I stay on the path. Solitude breeds imagination. Joy envelops happiness, and I am alone.
Thank you, Nancy. Who do we have next? Let's bring it up to Miss Jan Rowe. Jan, are you ready?
Yes, I have something positive, because last week I thought I was reading something positive and it wasn't. Okay. And this is untitled though. Okay, we, the USA, removed the democratically elected president of Honduras, Zelaya, around 2011. Okay, we, the USA, installed a corrupt person in Zelaya's place, some kind of narco trafficker. Hillary was involved. She mentioned this USA Zelaya removal was a moot point, didn't make it in her autobiography from hardback to paper. But now, Zelaya's wife is the president of Honduras. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. And let's go now. Who do I have next? Yes. The Idaho bound, but still always reaching out to us, because God knows there's not going to be anything to do out there on the farm. Although if he does a poetry reading in a farm in a barn, I'll gladly go there to read. Let's welcome up Mr. Bill Lewis.
Thank you so much. Oh, it's a great pleasure and honor here. BS with among you and do girl things. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I know you are looking at me and asking to yourselves, what for is there a candle burning in the background? Candles are a very suspicious object and portend unknown futures. Here. I want to share my candle with you because I am now the proud possessor of a wonderful whiskey glass with a quotation by James Madison on it. Why would I suddenly acquire a whiskey glass with James Madison on it? You may be curious as to. Because it was a birthday present from my brother and his wife, and I am so happy. I now have to go get some whiskey and drink it, but that will wait until, so yes, as of yesterday, one more time around the sun, woohoo, I made it, baby. Now, an appropriate poem. Let me still my heart and, do that calming thing because, serious poetry. Halfway up the stairs is a stair where I sit. There isn't really any other stair quite like it. It isn't at the bottom and it isn't at the top. So this is a stair where I always stop. Halfway down the stairs isn't up and isn't down. It isn't in the nursery and it isn't in the town. All sorts of funny thoughts go round my head. It isn't really anywhere. It's somewhere else instead. Emil?
Thank you, Bill. Who do I turn to now? Oh, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you now the comedy stylings of John Wesick.
Okay, well, let's see. How about something light tonight? This is called If Cormac McCarthy Wrote The Grasshopper and the Ants. Let's make sure that I'm unmuted. Okay, we're cool. In the warm days of summer, a grasshopper munched a clover leaf and picked up his fiddle. He was halfway through his warm-up exercise when he saw a line of ants, each straining under fallen seeds and dried fruit 6 times their weight. "Oi! What are you doing?" the grasshopper asked. "Storing food for the winter." The first of 2 ants, struggling with an acorn, said. They stopped for a breath and wiped their brows with their 6 legs. "Summer isn't going to last forever, you know," the second said, and the 2 ants resumed their journey. The grasshopper picked up his fiddle. The conversation caused him a great deal of cognitive dissonance. He worried that he should prepare for winter, but storing food seemed like too much work, and he just about mastered the chords for The Devil Came Down to Georgia. He began to play, and a centipede stopped to listen. "You hear about the ladybug?" the centipede asked after the grasshopper completed Venus in Furs. "No, what happened?" "She died. Choked to death on some moldy rye." "That's horrible." The grasshopper suppressed a grin. The tragedy reinforced his worldview. Finally, he had an argument to shut those smug ants up. There was no point in preparing for winter because the food would spoil anyway. He played a few chords of Ode to Joy and left to enlist the bullfrog's help. "Bloody diarrhea, plagectal vomiting, fever, dehydration, electrolyte loss. Those are the dangers of old food," the bullfrog croaked at sunrise. The insects paid so much attention that he croaked his message 3 times a day. The ants argued that mayflies and June bugs had died from natural causes, but no one listened. As a fresh food advocate, the grasshopper's career skyrocketed, and he kicked back some of his profits to the bullfrog. At each sold-out concert, he played Gluck's melody in memory of the dead. Then he received his highest honor, an invitation to play at the High Council of Cockroaches. "We must act to prevent food poisoning." The head cockroach wobbled his greasy antenna. "Play us a tune while we confer." The grasshopper played melody while the cockroaches traded political favors. "A decision has been made," the head cockroach concluded. "All stored food shall be banned under penalty of death." He turned to the grasshopper. "As a reward for your civic virtue, I present you with this medal." Another cockroach whispered in his ear. "What? We gave the medal to an assassin, bud?" "As a reward for your civic virtue, I present you with this stale cracker." Wasps fanned out across the land to confiscate all stored food and stung anyone withholding to death. Being wasps, they stung many who turned in their food as well. In celebration, the grasshopper held a victory concert. Accompanied by a chorus of crickets, he played REM's "It's the End of the World as We Know It" to an audience of beetles, millipedes, earwigs, butterflies, and water striders. "It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine." When the hard frost came, the ants were first to go. A small mercy, really. At least they didn't live to witness the depravity their neighbors sunk to. After weeks of hunger, a mob of stink bugs gathered to raise a stink outside the empty beer can the grasshopper called home. You betrayed us! What will our larvae eat now? The grasshopper muscled through the crowd and ran to the bullfrog. We have to tell everybody that's the ants' fault, the grasshopper said. What do you mean by we? The bullfrog shouted his tongue and ate the grasshopper. It was a tasty appetizer, but a growing frog needed protein, so he turned to cannibalism. The tadpoles, tree frogs, and leopard frogs lasted through mid-December. Then the bullfrog died, racked with guilt, and suffered eternal damnation as an entree in a French restaurant. Each night a chef amputated the bullfrog's legs and fried them in butter. They grew back the next morning to return on that night's menu. The other insects starved, their bodies swollen. They grew weak and had trouble concentrating until they hallucinated and died. Only cockroaches survived, fat and happy, living off the food they had confiscated from the others. A toast to that fiddler who brought us this bounty. The head cockroach raised a glass of honey seized from bees who are by now dead. I couldn't have thought of a better scam myself. What was that grasshopper's name? No one responded. Well, screw him then. Let's have another round of drinks.
Bravo! Bravo! You are insane. That was bravo! Put that man in a insane asylum, tie him up a straitjacket.
Oh, boy. Well, you actually remind me of a place one of my someone I knew in graduate school did about, and they were all it was basically all humans playing cockroaches because the earth had wiped itself out and people had been people could only go back as it was important for the circle of life to go on. Buddha was a desk worker and he had to keep, it was pretty amazing. And the villain is a female cockroach who used to be a male cockroach called Tarhun, a barbarian warrior. So, and Tarhun keeps on getting messed up over and over again and trying to kill himself so she could be reborn as a man. I think he described karma. Karma is a man who throws a dart, and that's how you find out how you live or die. What are you talking about? The Holocaust? A really bad game. It was, yeah. I'll have to find now I really want to find that play. I could probably go to Emerson and take it out from the thesis library. At any rate, I'm talking too much. Let's go to, once I unmute her, The Wild Antics of Carol Weston.
So let me see, electromagnetic spectrum. I drink the light of the visible spectrum and the invisible ultraviolet and infrared. Ease me into these waves from the sun and other stars, where I may burn, transform. Electromagnetic spectrum, you are part of my breathing. I lie down in your color. I bend forward into you. I lean against your light. Thank you.
Beautiful. And now, the musical antics. We had the comedy antics of John, the serene antics of Carol Weston, and now the musical antics of the Pulse, Mr. Ethan Mackler.
Hello, here's some music. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mackler. Christiana, are you, would you like to?
I will say something.
What's that?
I'll say something.
Okay.
Paper thin glass skeletons collide.
Boom. Okay. Excellent. Thank you for your turn. And up next, to bring us home for the end of the first round robin, let us go to Mr. James Van Looy. Check out his column at oddballmagazine.com.
Yeah. People were talking about the beats, so I did want to say that Stone Soup actually had Allen Ginsberg several times to Boston, and Gregory Corso also, and Ferlinghetti several times, and other very famous beat poets actually. So that was something that Jack actually knew all of those people, because he went out to San Francisco when he was just really almost still a teenager. I think he was a teenager, and you know, hung out with Ferlinghetti and a lot of those people, and he always had a relationship with Ferlinghetti. And in fact, Stone Soup was basically modeled on the City Lights bookstore in a lot of ways. It originally was a bookstore down on Cambridge Street. But anyway, I have a poem here called The Lee Granite Story, or Small World, Isn't It? And it's got my wife in it, so it's kind of for her too in that way, but it's also for a woman that I worked with who is now passed, named Norma Lorenzi. And it's one of the lugubrious poems. The Lee Granite Story, or Small World, Isn't It? While we were in the green lobby, actually the renovated old women's unit entry area, casting the final deciding vote to unbar Lee for having stolen a bottle of rubbing alcohol from the nurse's clinic and refused to give it up until the detail officer held him down while the nurses cut it out of his pocket, which all admit was really the clinic's fault for leaving the bottle unlocked and unsupervised, since what would any alcoholic do if you give him or her access to ETOH? While still, the argument at shift change meeting revolved around whether Lee did better elsewhere. When Lee was lying on Causeway Street with active AIDS, soaked with his own urine and covered with his own vomit from a McGee's hamburger he couldn't keep down, waiting for my wife, the intrepid psych nurse, to come by and discover his plight and call the police to help him, only to have them break his crutches in disgust at seeing him again, before they finally transport him to the inn, where he arrived on the actual night of his unbarring, demanding vociferously a new set of crutches he calls sticks. Where are my sticks? He inquisitorily keens. Where are my sticks? So that's that poem.
Ah.
And so I'll sing a little song here that goes with this. Thanks for the memory of candlelight and wine, castles on the Rhine, the Parthenon, and moments on the Hudson River line. How lovely it was. Thanks for the memory of rainy afternoons, swinging Harlem tunes, and motor trips, and burning lips, and burning toast and prunes. How lovely it was. Many's the time that we feasted, and many's the time that we fasted. Oh, well, it was well, it lasted. We did have fun and no harm done. So thanks for the memory of sunburns at the shore, nights in Singapore. You might have been a headache, but you never were a bore. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thanks for everyone participating in the third round. We'll do one more. I thought JJ Stickney was, John Stickney said he was going to be coming in, but I guess he ran behind. But I guess he's trying to get other people from his circle to join Stone Soup. Maybe next time with some more advanced notice that might work out. Up next and first, like all over again. John proposed a third round. Let's see what happens. It's doable. Let's welcome back up Mr. Magister Galt. Uh-oh. Ed, you there?
Yes, I am.
Check your connection. Check to see if you're okay. You came in very slow.
This one's called Extermination Day. Oh boy. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Mhm.
The connection is good. At least according to the internet, I'm connected now. Can you hear me?
You
'Cause
might,
I turned the mute off.
yeah,
hear me now?
try it. And now that your camera's not working, it might work better. Give it a shot.
Okay, can you see me first of all?
Don't turn your camera on. Don't turn your camera on, because I think that's
Can
what's that might be the source of why it was slowing down for you. Uh-oh, no, it's the source of him not being here at all. Oh boy. All right.
Okay,
Oh.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I better get going, so the mic is still on. Okay. Extermination Day. It was kind of a tradition for me in those days, every Monday, to go to the IHOP in Kenmore Square. Nope, sorry. Okay. My computer's acting up, I'm sorry.
We can still hear you.
Okay. I want to start over again here. Okay, it was kind of a tradition for me in those days, every Monday, to go to the IHOP in Kenmore Square. They were open all the time, and no matter how late I slept, And sometimes I would wake up at 3 in the afternoon, it being my day off. I could still get a half decent breakfast, at least most of the time. There were times I would get there only to have the pancake lady tell me that they were closed in order to exterminate. She then had the temerity to escort me out to the sidewalk and lock the door behind her to bar reentry. They went out of business not long after that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Magister. Let's welcome back up. Press *6, Nancy Dodson.
A toast. Come drink a toast to you, dear doggy. Don't sleep and appear foggy. We drink to the smells of the earth and relish your puppy's birth. We hope the breeding will be fine and beautiful. The dog will be washed and combed and dutiful. We drink a toast to you, our mother doggy, and hope next year for another corgi. The mother growled and said no. She barks and said, I better say no. The dog bosses me, I want a puppy. Puppyhood, it brings youth to the mother dog and me. So be it.
Thank you, Nancy. Moving on. Let's go to Jen Rowe.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. This starts out a little grim, but it gets good. 93. There are 93 SLAPP lawsuits that the fossil fuel corporations are using. SLAPP means Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. Nestles has used them in Michigan, trying to drain all the lakes and streams. Anybody that would complain would slap them. Trump used it against Deutsche Bank. However, the Canadian Logging Corporation Resolute just lost a 7-year duration lawsuit against Greenpeace. They were trying to sue Greenpeace for $100 million. They said Greenpeace was organized crime. Greenpeace revealed Resolute's Canadian logging's pollution. Thank you.
Thank you.
And back to Bill. Back to you, Bill Lewis. Is that podium behind you? It looks like you're gonna do a State of the Union. I hope you do that before you leave us in dear old Cambridge.
Ooh, a State of the Union. That's a
Or State of the Bill, what have you.
Oh, the Bill of the Union. Yeah, what is the Union Bill? I don't know. We spent a lot of money, so that's going to be a pretty big bill by the end of the evening. But anyway, imagine for a moment that you are a physicist who has retired, and as physicists go, you did cool physicist thing, but you weren't like very important. And in your retirement, you started teaching physics in high school and stuff. And here you are, and you happen to find out that Albert Einstein is teaching at the university down the street. He has an office there. And seeing as your friend knows his cousin, you call him up and you say, hey, would you mind? I'd like to discuss with you how I'm teaching my high school students physics. And so you go over and you spend an hour talking with Albert Einstein about teaching physics. So that's what I did on Friday for computer science. I talked to Professor Jerry Sussman at MIT about how I'm teaching computer science to my kids, and he is maybe not quite Einstein, but he's, and I was so a little bit nervous, but like, yeah, he's a great guy, and we had a wonderful discussion. So I just wanted to tell you about that wonderful, wonderful thing. Now, something poetic is necessary. Yes, you don't need any introduction to it. Dad and I always shared a love of the intellectual and musing literature. Lewis Carroll in particular. When I would come out to visit him, we'd always exchange a poem. "You're old, Father William," the young man said, "and your hair has grown very white. And yet you incessantly stand on your head. At your age, do you think it is right?" I would recite that poem, and he would quickly respond with the next line. "In my youth," Father William replied to his son, "I feared it might injure the brain. But now that I'm perfectly sure that I have none, why, I do it again and again." And we'd laugh. We were intellectual gentlemen, he and I. And manly men. That was something Dad was for certain. A manly man, tough, determined. He didn't let little things like bruises get him down. No siree. Life knocked you down? That's too bad. Now get up, brush yourself off, and keep going. That was the Dad I knew. He grew up in Spokane, chopping wood at the youth. When we got back from our Canada trip, Dad took me out to the shed behind the cabin. He pulled out this rusty two-man saw, proceeded to clean and sharpen it. Then the two of us went to the woodpile and started sawing logs. Manly men! Me and Dad cutting logs with a two-man saw, and it went through those things like butter. Oh my God, that was wonderful. My dad was amazing, a veritable genius, and proud of it. He designed telemetry systems for America's first nuclear submarines, and he was very, very proud of it. Dad and I never flew together, but he did come out when I was hang gliding and drive chase for me a few times. It was really cool. I would launch my hang glider at Crestline above San Bernardino and fly wherever the wind would take me. Dad would follow me in the car and pick me up when I landed, doing manly things. At the end of the trip, as I was heading home, I would finish the poem. "You are old," said the youth, "and one would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever. Yet you balanced an eel on the tip of your nose. What made you so awfully clever?" And Father would reply, "I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough," said his father. "Don't give yourself airs. You think I can listen all day to this stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs."
Thank you, Bill. And now, Mr. John, I can go 3 rounds. Wezek.
No, you actually said the first round was the 3rd round.
Oh God. Oh, whoops.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, here's the poem about the Gertrude Stein play called "I Want to Marry Franny the Cow." She dances in a cow costume, black splotches and white fabric. The hat covers her nappy hair, but has an opening for her face. Wire-rimmed glasses magnify slightly crossed eyes. Her nose curls when she smiles. She twirls and arches on stage, then moves among the audience, teasing men with her plastic udders. I want to marry Franny the Cow, take her home to my neighbors in lab coats and business suits. She can graze in our front yard. We'll dine with the Cleavers and the Bradys. I'll have the salt lick, please. But I can't afford a cow, and there are zoning laws. Women can't wear cow suits here, maybe in San Francisco. So the neighbors sell her costume to a fast food franchise. Menswear employees consume her a quarter pound at a time, then return to the store where she fuels their efforts to tailor our minds into jackets and ties. Dedicated to Bill.
Nice. Thank you, John. And now, unmuting once again for the great Carol Weston. And yeah, I think you're up. Oh, yep, you're up.
Okay. Frenzy. Everywhere I go, the force of gravity is in a frenzy around me. Notebooks drop, pens shoot across the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. And now we go back to the man, the myth, the person who keeps track of when he's next and is already unmuted, Mr. Mackler. Bravo. Christiana, if you're interested in reading again.
His eyelashes were tipped in morning dew.
Nicely done. Very nicely done. And now we go back to Mr. James Van Looy.
Okay, so I have a poem here called Phallic Karma. Phallic Karma. I guess it's because Trump just got fined $5 million for his proclivities. Phallic Karma. Dr. Freud came first, of course. Bearded and goat-footed, he soon proved to have us all manacled and chained in bondage to generational neurosis of instinct, while catharsis only opened the blocked gates of infusions of new energy, and we were left wanting the objects of our own frustrations as a reality principle squatted over it all. Of course, phallic illusion was defined getting out of a car, a 1947 Roadster that still had running boards, for Christ's sake. My smarty pants big brother back visiting on the holiday from Ann Arbor and liberal arts told me all about them Oedipal complexes. The soirees of this sweaty sexual samsara eventually collided head on with the Dharma when I heard the word karma run over Christian dogma. It was before the war. It was after school. One of my teachers actually wanted to talk to me. We had a long, intimate conversation, and I realized that all the beatniks weren't in San Francisco. And angels and animals, animals and angels, angels and animals, animals and angels, angels and animals. It's not as if animals can't have wings, or that angels never indulge in a fling. Bats and squirrels embark on brave flight. Men see angels in the midst of the fight. If angels can truly jury couple, and animals so perfectly can people the startled moments of the dark night, perhaps we won't embarrass the light with our shadowy, convoluted forms, our tug on the slithering earthworm from its rightful home, our desperate deliberations on what remains disparate. Angels and animals, animals and angels. Thanks.
So what do you think? Do you want to do one more round, or are we good?
I'm gonna have to head out a little bit earlier, Jim.
Okay. We'll call it a night for tonight, but we'll see what we can do next time. I'll make an announcement of a triple round. Thank you guys for coming out. Hopefully we're gonna get some more guest appearances in the weeks to come. And hopefully some old friends will be coming back very shortly, not just now for the May 52nd anniversary celebration of Stone Soup, but also for the months leading up into the summer. And check out the Stone Soup Facebook page. Hopefully I'll be loading up some surprises onto YouTube and elsewhere, and have some other good announcements to make. Thank you guys very much. And we'll do the quick wave. I guess we'll be waving goodbye to John Wezick, who already just cleared out of here. He's fast. Can be like this every week, guys. Maybe more people, but all we need to start with you first. So don't lose touch, and check out for calls for submissions on the Facebook page. We're doing a submission call for Aim for the Thoughts and Prayers, our anthology of Stone's Throw's take on the mass shootings, which is an idea I had, I think, back in 2015 or 16, and has not grown, has not gotten any less relevant. So your thoughts and poems are much more valued than your thoughts and prayers, and hopefully the artist will be coming with work for us very shortly. Thank you guys, and have yourself an excellent night, and stay well.